Hello everybody and welcome back to another top 10 video. My name is Joker and today we're going to be going over my top 10 favorite Sith Lords. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to make this video. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, are all the evil characters, so I'm so happy to finally be doing this. Let's hop right into this countdown because I don't want to waste any more time. And we're starting off already with some whack job characters. Coming in at number 10 we have Darth Vitiate. Now when I say I mean weird, I mean this guy died like 4 times and he kept coming back, so this is some ridiculous stuff. Vitiate was a dark side entity of enormous power who manipulated galactic affairs for 1500 years. So basically he was the OG Palpatine except way more crazy. Like at the age of 6 he killed his stepfather, and then for multiple months after that he tortured his mother until eventually deciding to kill her as well. And then at the age of 13 he ended up taking over his entire planet by himself. So yeah, the guy's a little out of his mind. Later on in his adulthood life, he managed to convince 8,000 Sith Lords to follow him into a ritual that would end up taking all of their lives, granting him immortality. He was also responsible for the fall of Revan and Malak to the dark side. He was also responsible for creating the secret Sith Empire, which returned after so long to destroy the Galactic Republic during the events of the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic. Also, during his time as the Sith Emperor, he was secretly constructing another empire which would be known as the Eternal Empire, which he then ruled under the name of Valcourian. While becoming immortal, he learned how to transfer his soul from body to body using the Force, causing him to live on forever, which is the reason he died so many times. All of his host bodies would die, and just before it was completely finished, he would transfer his soul to another body. So literally, like, impossible to kill. It's crazy. Coming in at number 9, we have a Sith Lord that didn't have a title of Darth, but was just simply known as Jethani. Jethani, or Jetha, was a female Sith Lord who is best known for her use of the Light Whip. And we'll get into that in a second. It's pretty unpractical, just like the rest of this stuff. She was identified as a Force-sensitive being, and was given over to the Jedi Order as a toddler. As she approached adulthood, Jethani began to fall in love with Keel Charney. Once their master learned of this affair, it was brought up to the Cathar, which demanded that the two of them refrain from any further relationship. Jethani refused and fled the Jedi Order, and would eventually join the Sith. Nothing like meeting a boy to make you rebel and do stupid shit. After joining the dark side, she would become a member of the Brotherhood of Darkness, where she would then give up valuable strategic information pertaining to the Jedi. And here's a plot twist, she ended up developing a relationship with Bane before he was a Sith Lord, and even attempted to kill him with a poisonous kiss, which obviously did not work. As far as her powers go, she was very distinguished in the use of Force lightning, and was even the person responsible for teaching Bane how to use it. And as far as weapons go, she was very skilled with a weapon known as the Light Whip, which was a lightsaber, but instead of it being an actual sword-like blade, it was literally a whip of a lightsaber. Completely unpractical, no idea how it worked. I would cut myself into 5 pieces with it. But nevertheless, it's still pretty awesome. And while on the topic of Bane, coming in at number 8 we have Darth Bane. Bane was the sole survivor of the destruction of the Sith at the hands of the Jedi Order during the Jedi-Sith War. Bane came to realize that all of the fighting that went on between the Sith as the years went by are the reason that the Jedi were so easily able to defeat them in battle. After realizing this, he went on and reformed the Sith Order with a new rule that would always be followed, known as the Rule of Two. After the Jedi had learned of Bane's new philosophy, they challenged him and ended up defeating him in battle, thus believing that the Sith were completely destroyed. However, the philosophy would live on through his apprentice who survived the encounter. And from then on since, the Rule of Two would be a constant factor. Just a little fun fact, but Darth Bane was actually created as part of the backstory for the prequel trilogy, and his first mention was actually in the novelization of The Phantom Menace. So if you didn't know that, there's something new for the day. Coming in at number 7 we have the all-famous Darth Tyrannus. Formerly known as Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus was the Dark Lord of the Sith and leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Before he was a Sith Lord, Dooku was a Jedi Master who started as Yoda's apprentice. During his time as a Jedi, he became disillusioned with the Jedi Order, the Republic, and the corruption within the Galactic Senate. He would eventually leave the Jedi Order and become known as one of the Lost 20. The Lost 20 being a group of Jedi who had left the Order over the years. During his time away from the Jedi, he was approached by Darth Sidious and was offered a spot as Sidious's apprentice. Count Dooku then accepted the proposal and became known as Darth Tyrannus. After joining, Darth Tyrannus would spend the next 10 years helping Sidious to implement much of the groundwork necessary to begin the Clone Wars. Unfortunately for him, Darth Tyrannus would eventually fall to the hands of Anakin Skywalker aboard General Grievous's flagship in the battle above Coruscant, and thus the cycle would begin all over again. Coming in at number 6 we have one of the coolest Sith Lords to ever be created, and that is the one and only Darth Maul. Darth Maul was the Dark Lord of the Sith and another apprentice to Darth Sidious. He was originally killed off in the end of The Phantom Menace, but was resurrected many years years later during the Star Wars Clone Wars TV series. During his apprenticeship to Sidious, Maul was trained to become a weapon of the Sith. He became an acrobatic warrior and learned how to use the double-bladed lightsaber, making him one of the coolest characters to ever be created in Star Wars history. After his original death in The Phantom Menace, we come to find out that Maul actually survived the wounds he got from the fight, which was a guy that was literally cut in half, so not a man to be trifled with if you can survive being cut in half. He would live on to meet characters such as Ezra Bridger, which he would use to help open a Sith holocron, and would live on to find himself back on Tatooine waiting for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And as he does come in contact once again with Kenobi, they fight in one last duel, which ends Darth Maul. Darth Maul wanted to end the fight quickly by using the same move he used to kill Qui-Gon Jinn, but Obi-Wan Kenobi saw straight through it and ended up winning the fight. And then we saw the final sad ending to Darth Maul. Coming in at number 5, we have the Sith Lord himself, Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious is the Sith Lord. He was able to mask his presence from the Jedi, grow to become the Supreme Chancellor, overthrow it to create the Galactic Empire while destroying the Jedi in the process. But there's more to his story than just that. During his early years, he befriended Plagueis, who had been a family friend. After discovering that Plagueis was the Sith Lord, Palpatine took his place as Plagueis' apprentice and became known as Darth Sidious. After Plagueis taught all of his knowledge to Sidious, Sidious would end up taking the knowledge and killing Plagueis in his sleep. And as we all know, he would then go on to rule the entire galaxy. As far as skills are concerned, Sidious actually hated lightsaber combat and wanted to avoid it at all costs. He'd much rather rely on his Force abilities in a fight, which is why you constantly see him using Force lightning. However, for a guy who hated lightsaber combat, his lightsaber hilt is without a doubt the coolest design I had ever seen. He also had a lightsaber identical to his own, hidden in a chamber somewhere in his quarters. However, he would literally be overthrown by Darth Vader, as Darth Vader would throw him down a shaft in the Death Star, ending his reign of terror. But of course, we all know that, but still had to list it for accuracy. Coming in at number 4, we have the almighty, infamous Darth Vader. Before he was Darth Vader, he was known as Anakin Skywalker, who was actually created through the Force, possibly due to Darth Plagueis, but we'll get to that in a minute. Before becoming Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi Knight who was taken into training way too late. He still had ties to his mother and was involved in a secret affair with Senator Padme Amidala. After showing weakness in his fear of losing Padme, Chancellor Palpatine came out to Anakin as Darth Sidious and offered him a spot as his apprentice in order to save Padme's life. He then accepted his role as his apprentice and joined the dark side as Darth Vader. He then went on to betray all of the Jedi, caused Padme to die during childbirth, and he even killed the younglings. We don't talk about that part. After confronting Obi-Wan on Mustafar, Vader lost 3 of his limbs and was set on fire. Pretty shitty, I know. After he went into surgery, he would emerge in the suit that we all know and love. He then went on to become the biggest threat to the rebellion throughout the galaxy until his son, Luke Skywalker, saw the good in him and brought him back to the light, causing him to save his son from the power of Darth Sidious and ended up overthrowing Darth Sidious, thus destroying the Sith. He would die from his wounds shortly after the fight, however, he knew he was redeemed since his son saved him. His body was then taken back to Endor and burned into the world. So yeah, we're talking about a guy that was delimbed and set on fire twice. It's kind of a messed up life. Coming in at number 3, we have the almighty Darth Plagueis the Wise. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith and heir to the lineage of Darth Bane. Trained by Darth Tenebrous, Plagueis mastered the art of science and midi-chlorian manipulation. Obsessed with the thought of finding eternal life, he managed to manipulate the midi-chlorians to create life, which is why it's theorized that Darth Plagueis actually manipulated the midi-chlorians within Shmi and ended up creating Anakin Skywalker. Which I guess in a way makes Darth Plagueis Anakin's father, but none of it's been canon, so it's just theories right now. During his time, he would come across Sheev Palpatine, who he would make his apprentice under the name of Darth Sidious. And the whole video comes full circle. After teaching Sidious everything that he knew, Sidious would turn right around and kill Plagueis in his sleep. And wouldn't you know it, we're right back at square one. Coming in at number 2, we have a big fan favorite known as Darth Revan. Darth Revan was a well-known Sith Lord who played pivotal roles in both the Jedi and the Sith, in the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Civil War, and the Great Galactic War. Like almost every other Sith Lord, Revan started out as a Jedi who fell. Both Revan and his best friend Malak were both defeated and turned to the dark side by the Sith Emperor Darth Vitiate. As a Sith Lord, Darth Revan took Darth Malak as his apprentice. Together, they reclaimed Korriban and re-established the Sith Academy. A few years later, the Jedi Council sets up a trap against Revan and he is captured. After being brought before the Jedi Council, the entirety of the Council wipes his mind and they give him the new identity of just a regular soldier. And it starts here that it leads up to the events of the game Knights of the Old Republic, which is where the rest of his story is played out by you, the player. So it is completely up to you to determine what happens next in his life. Now, with there being 2 death dates, Revan does return in the MMO The Old Republic. However, in that he goes back to being Darth Revan and is one of the main antagonists. But once again, it just holds up to your end of the deal as the player to figure out what happens next in his life. And coming in at number 1, we have my absolute personal favorite Sith Lord, Darth Nihilus. Nihilus was once a man who lost everything in the Galactic Republic's war against the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders. After experiencing the destructive spatial phenomenon known as the Mass Shadow, everything on his planet was obliterated. In doing so, this also destroyed his body, leaving him as a wound in the Force. This event made his remaining body, spirit, thing crave Force energy so much that he started to survive off of the Force of other beings, thus giving him the title as the Lord of Hunger. He was found by Darth Traya and taken as her apprentice, and thus Darth Nihilus was born. He's my favorite Sith Lord for many reasons. First of all, his body doesn't exist. The Mass Shadow caused his body to deteriorate to nothing, so he's literally just a mass of Force energy that uses robes and a mask to give him a physical form, which fits with his name Nihilus because it derives from nihilist and annihilate, which practically makes him the denial of all existence, and he wants to make all things non-existent. Which once again fits because he's a ghost that literally survives off of draining whole planets of their Force energy. And to make him even creepier, besides his looks and the fact that he's literally a ghost, he also speaks in the ancient Sith language, which no one really understands, but it is the creepiest thing you've ever heard. He's eventually struck down aboard his ship known as the Ravager, and his body ends up just dissipating in a cloud of red lightning. However, in this case, he really can't die since his spirit was bounded to the armor he wore. Afterwards, his armor was taken back to the planet of Korriban and was buried. However, with the fact that his soul was bound to his armor, his soul came into touch with the planet's dark side nexus, so now he literally exists within the planet itself. So yeah, he's just all around creepy. There's like no way around that. But that right there concludes my list of my top 10 favorite Sith Lords. Now it's like I always have to say, I know my list might not be exactly the same as yours, so I'd like you to leave a comment down below and tell me, what are your top 10 favorite Sith Lords? Is it a completely different list? Is it like my list? Or do you think that my list was fine, but you wanted to throw in a few different characters? But that'll be all for this episode, guys. Remember, if you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below if you would like to see more top 10 videos, or if you'd like to see anything else. But until then, and as always, I will see you guys next time.